So before we start dividing fractions, we have to understand the idea of a reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction is when the numerator and the denominator are switched or they're flipped. So the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. So you can see that we literally just flipped it over. The numerator became the denominator and the denominator became the numerator. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. And the reciprocal of 1/8 is 8/1. So to divide a number by a fraction, we're going to multiply the number by the reciprocal of the fraction. All right, so for example, if we started out with this problem right here, 7/2 divided by 3/5. Well, the opposite of division, of course, is multiplication. So if we're doing the opposite, then we're going to do the opposite of that second fraction. So 7/2, that's going to stay the same. But if we're going to do the opposite, my division sign becomes a multiplication sign. And then I just flip the second fraction, the divisor. And the 3/5 becomes 5/3. And now I just multiply. 7 times 5 is 35. 2 times 3 is 6. That's an improper fraction. And I change that to a mixed number of 5 and 5/6. So let's see what that actually looks like. If I had the problem 3 divided by 1/2, that means I'm going to take, let's say, 3 pizzas. So up here I have 1, 2, 3 pizzas, and I want to divide each of those in half. So you can see that I have cut each of the pizzas in half, and I'm going to take the reciprocal. It means I'm going to flip my fraction, but if I'm going to flip it, then I'm doing the opposite, and I'm going to change my division sign to multiplication, and that becomes 2/1. And so then I just multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. And I know then that that would simplify down to 6. So that means I have 6 pieces. And do I? Yes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So you can see how coming up with that reciprocal and then multiplying actually tells us how many pieces we have after we have divided it. So let's work some of those now without our fraction pieces. And the first one I see is 6 divided by 1/2. Sort of like that pizza one we just had. Instead of 3 pizzas, now we have 6. So I'm going to have 6 whole pizzas, and I'm going to find the reciprocal, so I'm doing the opposite, so I'm going to change that to a multiplication. I'm going to flip my 1/2 to 2/1, and then I just simply multiply, and I get 12/1, which equals 12. So I would have 12 pieces if I cut each of my 6 pizzas into halves. I have 8 divided by 1/4, or I have 8/1 times, because I'm dividing, I'm finding the reciprocal, 4/1. Then I multiply. 8 times 4 is 32/1, or simply 32. What if I had 6 pizzas and I want to divide them into 2/3? Well, I would have 6/1 times, I'm finding the reciprocal, so I'm going to make the 3 the numerator, and the 2 becomes the denominator. Then I multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. 1 times 2 is 2. Improper fraction. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 4 divided by 2/5. I have 4 as my numerator. 1 is the denominator. Again, I'm finding the reciprocal, so I'm going to multiply it times 5/2. 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 2 is 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10.